there's three constants in life which are non-negotiable for people, which are pain, uncertainty, and constant work.
Right.
No matter how much development, progress, success you get, you will always have those three things in your life.
Mm.
And I think that what the process of coaching sometimes can be misconceived as is this happy, positive, amazing process. The best coaches I've had had a lot of challenge.
Hi, and welcome to Helping People Perform, the podcast that gives you fascinating insights into those people whose chosen vocation is to help others perform at their best. From consultants to teachers, sports coaches to financial advisors, all of my guests share a passion for getting the most out of individuals, teams, and organisations. Enjoy the episode. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Helping People Perform. Delighted to be joined today all the way from Dubai. We have ourselves a professional coach and founder of the Awakened Man Project. Welcome to the show today, Benjamin Owen.
Oh yeah, man. My mother and my mentor call me Benjamin. But yeah, no, really absolute pleasure to be here with you, Paul.
Thanks for being on the show today, and really looking forward to hearing about your story, because I think you've got an amazing background, and then you're going on to do some great things as well. So thanks for joining us, and maybe we can start off with a bit of that background in terms of what got you to where you are today.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I've been into helping people perform, like title of the show, since I was very young. I was very lucky to be an elite athlete, and whilst I was doing athletics and training, I would train my friends. I would train anyone with a wallet and a pulse. But just more that I loved helping people get into exercise early parts of my career.
Yeah.
And went to do the sports science, the masters, all that sort of stuff, and that quickly got me into working with high performing men and women, so like podium potential,
Right.
people that wanted to get on a podium, or people that wanted to play for a professional team. And albeit I loved that arena of elite sport, I think my passion just resided in helping your parents, school teachers, professional people make the most of their energy, their fitness. And I just loved it. I was really lucky to fall into my passion really early on in life.
Right.
I exited university, and within a couple of years I had a flourishing business starting. And a bit dissimilar to a lot of trainers who spend all the time on a gym floor, I would have conversations with people. I would sit in a consult room and we would explore all the things that were happening outside of the gym, that was stopping them from getting the results that they wanted in their life. And it was the fastest and best education I ever had, sitting with a guy who tells you more than anything that he wants to lose weight, but can't seem to get the actions to match that desire. And I watch people spend lots of money, use lots of energy, spend enormous amounts of time trying to get these transformations. And I was always fascinated about what was getting in the way. And that was just my 20s, really, really big part of my 20s. Have you ever done a body transformation, Paul?
I certainly have, once or twice, and it's
it's tough, isn't it? You know yourself. It's like you get into these endeavors, and it's not as simple as calories in, calories out. It technically it is, but everything around that is what makes it a bit more challenging.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't into fast cars. I wasn't into, ridiculous holidays or buying houses. I just wanted to reinvest all the cash that I made in the early parts of my career in mentors and learning and education. So I've been very lucky to work with some of the best coaches, mentors, consultants in the world, helping people just really like break down the barricades and the blocks to them performing at their highest potential.
Right.
And it started very much as the body in my 20s, but as I got a little bit more wise, and maybe I started really helping people with their mindset, really just looking at slowing down and what are the things, what are the stories, what are the beliefs that are stopping someone from achieving what they wanted. And yeah, that was it. I really just went a mile deep on these two things, body and brain.
Yeah.
And then in my own life, when I hit my 30s, I had a flourishing coaching business. My fitness business was going well. I had some real big struggles in my own life. I really struggled in my relationship. It led to getting divorced, married and divorced in a year. And I just had this huge amount of rage. I just had this unexplained rage and anger. It felt like I was every single day, it was one more straw which would break the camel's back. And what I realized is that there was some parts of my personal development that I hadn't attended to, which was what I call now my backbone. Courage, anti-fragility, integrity, all these things that guys need to have. And I was this happy-go-lucky guy, a painted smile on my face, but yet inside I was quite angry. And it was normal, but I just really, really struggled with that. And I went on this journey over the last 5 years, which has been men's work, where it's therapy, sharing, learning from other men, being honest and open about my feelings, and really just changing the way that I perform. And this has probably been the icing on the cake for me, because I think they all work together. Having a great body means that you've got energy. Having a great mindset means that you can set goals and achieve them, but having the backbone, having the resilience, the courage to have hard conversations, that's what really, I think, changed my life. So yeah, that's kind of like a whistle stop tour of a bit of where I've been and where I'm going. Yeah.
No, that's fascinating. And I think like many of us, we've heard that body and mind piece. But the backbone bit's a new one to me. So let's maybe delve into that in a little bit. But I just want to ask a couple of follow-up questions there in terms of, so growing up, you were an elite athlete. What was your sport, just out of interest?
I was 400 and 800 meter runner.
Right. And are there any things of that particular sport, of that particular focus that you've taken as lessons? What makes a good 400, 800 meter runner that you can go, right, actually, we can extract some of the principles of that and move forward?
The ability to tolerate pain.
Right.
And I don't say that lightly. 400 meter running, if you know anything about it's painful. It's your ability to tolerate excruciating lactic when you're running around the track.
Right.
And my mentor and the guy I follow, one of my gurus, if you wish, a guy called Phil Stutz, he talks about this your life changes when you turn towards pain and away from comfort. And this is what I sell to guys on a daily basis and people. I'm like, if you turn towards the things that you believe to be painful and away from the comfort, your life will change.
Right.
Whether that's getting up at 4 or 5 a.m., whether that's doing the workout, whether that's having that hard conversation, it's painful. And it's the same with 400 meter running. So what would happen is that you do a really hard rep, like, you'd be really pushing it round, and then you'd have maybe a minute or two to gather your spirit, your soul, and then return back to the line to go and do it again.
Right.
And I think that just, that ability to do that was what made me a good 400 meter runner.
Right.
And it equally is what I use in my coaching now. So yeah, great question, by the way. Yeah. Great question. I thought.
Yeah, I mean, because 400 meters for me is, I mean, I've never been a runner as such, but 400 meters has always seemed to me that awkward distance of, you've pretty much got a sprint, but you, as you say, you've gone, the 200 meters seems to be the limit of the lactic tolerance, and then you've got to do that again to get there. So it's, whereas 800 meters, I think you can start to justify a little bit of a pacing and making sure you're there. But 400 meters, you see the Michael Johnsons, you see the greats, and they literally just sprinted around the whole track, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I think that it is, and I was very lucky to have that. I'd say that conditioning as a youngster, I loved it. It was, but it taught me so much, and I was very lucky at the same time. Just another thing, I had a great coach. I had a great coach. I went through, so when I was 18, my stepdad passed away. Not my father, but pretty much my in-house father. Fantastic guy. Really, really helped me learn so much. And I didn't, as a 18-year-old boy, I didn't know how to deal with that, with death. I was 17, 18 years old. And I went to the track every single day, and I didn't have to be the guy that was mourning and going through bereavement. He just chatted to me about my training, and he'd, give me a little hug, and he would just nurture me through challenge.
Right.
And like looking back, that's kind of who I've been for a lot of my clients over the last 15, 20 years, is that stable, constant, not positive, but neutral person in their life that's really there to help them perform. And that's why, I had a great coach, a guy called Phil Oliver.
Right.
And he's probably, I would say, one of the best coaches in the UK, if not the world. He was such an amazing coach.
Yeah.
Year after year, he'd have champions because he was so nurturing. And, coaching doesn't come from therapy. So I'm a professional coach. People often think that coaching is similar to therapy. There is therapeutic interventions and ways that some coaches kind of practice, but therapy is therapy. Coaching is about, it actually came from sports coaching. And I've just had, they were the real kind of foundational people in my life, my sports coaches.
Yeah.
And that's who I model a lot of how I behave on now.
Yeah. No, it's a great reflection, just reflecting on my own experiences. Although I played some semi-decent level badminton back in my days. I was
nice
sort of county championships and things like that. And we had coaches, but it was never a massive impact on me in that stage. But having thought about it, it wasn't until I was probably in my late 30s that I got exposed to a business coach or any sort of life coaching elements. And I think having that exposure in the early stages in your formative years of the value that coaching brings, particularly if you've got a great coach, then that can at least highlight to you that actually there's value in doing this. And a lot of people don't go to a coach because they don't know what that means to them and the experience that they can get to it. So that's maybe one for people to think about, is how do you challenge yourself on that? But also, if you've got kids growing up, how do you get them exposed to coaching, to therapies, to things that are going to serve them well in future life as well? So the other point, I've got to make a note of this because it's the first time I've heard someone mention this, is you talked about coaching not being negative or positive, but being neutral. And I really like that. So can you tell me a bit more about what you mean by that? Because often people will say your coach has to be the positive one and the really upbeat and all
great observation. So I'll tell you where it came from. In my 20s, I believed that if I read enough positive psychology, if I succeeded enough, if I did all these things that was going to make me happy, I would someday be exonerated from pain. Be it naivety, be it just a kind of a mindset I'd created. It was just, I was like, okay, well, if I spend enough on personal development, if I do enough coaching, if I do enough personal growth, or I earn enough money, then one day I'll be magically exonerated from feeling pain, and struggle. And that's kind of who I was being for a lot of my clients in the early parts of my coaching journey, was this kind of happy guy that was to lift them up, in which you absolutely have that role sometimes in someone's life as a coach. However, what I realized is that there's three constants in life which are non-negotiable for people, which are pain, uncertainty, and constant work. No matter how much development, progress, success you get, you will always have those three things in your life. And I think that what the process of coaching sometimes can be misconceived as is this happy, positive, amazing process. The best coaches I've had had a lot of challenge. I've been in a coaching session. I absolutely hate my coach in that moment because they're holding a mirror to me. They're perhaps asking me some really uncomfortable questions, but Christ, I'm growing enormously in that session. So it's not negative, nor is it positive. It's kind of neutral. It's someone there who's on your side, but they're willing to just stay in the neutral space and say, well, what about this? Or what about that? Yeah. And I just think that when you see coaching like that, it's a way, way better process for the person being coached. And what I've really talked about more recently is targeted neutral thinking. So it's not positive, nor is it negative. It's just it just is, and then making some actions from that. So it's hopefully that explains that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think it reminded me a little bit of, I don't know if you've ever heard Johnny Wilkinson talking and the stuff he does on, the High Performance podcast and all this. It's that element of if you set yourself up for those peaks too much, then the troughs are equally, if not, bigger. And he talks about the World Cup and 5 seconds after winning the World Cup, he's basically in depression. So, and now he starts to get the same amount of enjoyment from washing the dishes as he does something else. It's like, in the moment, I'm neutral. I don't let myself get too high, get too low. It's just a case of, there are dangers at the extremes. Not to say you can't have them, but it's
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's what I help people do is I make their highs higher and their lows higher, but very much keeping them really nice and steady.
Right.
And if you look at anyone that performs, it's about just consistency. And I know guys that seek the highs. As Mark Manson says in his book, happiness versus highs. And the guys that seek the highs are when they buy the Ferrari or they buy the house or they go on this bucket list holiday. They're constantly seeking the highs, when happiness is, as a guy called Sean Acor describes, is the joy that we experience striving towards our potential.
Right.
And I can think back to over the last couple of weeks, and my happiest moments are when I'm striving towards my potential. And that's not always pleasure. It's sometimes, again, it's pain.
Yeah. Awesome. So maybe let's delve into it a little bit then about the Awakened Man project and what you do now. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. And so really, I struggled enormously when I had my first kick in my life. I did have a great 20s. Things seemed to come to me really easy. The business did really well. I built a fitness business. We had about 300 clients. There were things in that time that were just like, we were making money. I built a big coaching business, and I'd never really struggled. I'd love to say, like, I lost my stepdad early in my life. That was hard, but I moved away from that struggle. But I'd never really come across almost like an existential struggle. And when the same time I got divorced, I had a bit of stuff going on in the business where I had a massive VAT bill because I hadn't accounted for it. I had all sorts of stuff going on. And I didn't know where to turn. That was ultimately what was, I tried coaching, and coaching wasn't enough because I couldn't find the right coach. I had some great coaches, but I just didn't find the right coach for that point. I didn't feel like, as a man, I didn't feel broken, because for a lot of guys, we're stoic. We don't like to share our feelings, our thoughts, emotions. So people were like, "Oh, go see a therapist." And I'm like, I'm not depressed. That's what I'm not depressed. I was naive to say that I wasn't depressed, but I was suppressed.
Right.
And there was just this feeling, like this anger. My jaw was tight. I had headaches, and I was like, something's not right. I need to get some help with this. And then so I actually reached out to a great friend of mine, is an ex-British and Irish Lions conditioning coach, and he said, I've got a retreat going on for men where we just come, you'll get a lot from it. And I was like, yeah, maybe not. Anyway, I decided to go. It was transformational, and it was guys sitting around in a circle talking about life and their dark stuff. And this was coupled with meditation, yoga, breath work, like some really cool stuff. I'm not going to say it all because they keep it secret, because it's like a part of what they do.
Yeah.
And it was massively healing. It was really, really powerful. And I was around groups of men who were successful in their own right. They had built businesses. They had great businesses and families and everything I wanted.
Right.
But what happened afterwards, there wasn't anywhere for me to go and carry on doing that work. I'd been on a retreat. It was 7 days. It was nice. It was away, no phone for 7 days, all this sort of stuff. And I couldn't find anyone who I wanted to do the work with. So I went to various men's groups. I looked at different support groups, and it wasn't it. Right. It wasn't my guys. So I created it. I said to my mentor at the time, Yassine, I said, I want to start a men's group where we talk about money, family, health, fitness, all that sort of stuff. And I said, I've looked for one. And he said, well, why don't we start it? And I was like, what, me and you? Like, he was my mentor. This guy was he's a fantastic man. And he said, yeah, let's start it. Me and Pete, my other business partner, we started something a while ago. It didn't really kick off. Why don't we just use the guys that we talked to originally, see if anyone wants to come and join us? And it was just post-pandemic. It was like, it was in the pandemic. So we just started reaching out to guys saying, hey, do you want to come and do some work with us? Like, work on yourself, work on your business. And it was just, guys just said yes. They just said, yes, I really need this right now. It was expensive. It was a real investment. It was a daily call, everything that would probably repel a lot of guys, but guys were just saying, yeah, this is what I really want. I'm looking for this. I'm lonely. Because if you think about it, pandemic, a lot of guys like us, Paul, you imagine you work in your own space, were just lonely. They were just lonely. And there's nothing weak about that. It was just like they weren't connected to other men. Yeah. And so we created this daily call system, and guys just started. We didn't do a lot of business discussions. We didn't do a lot of talking about how to run your business. But because guys were starting to be honest, they were starting to have hard conversations. They were working on the relationships. They were pushed by other guys. They started performing better. We had guys doubling their profit margins, doubling their take homes, starting new businesses. We had a couple of guys. They went for up the career ladder 2 or 3 rungs. So they were like incredible. And it was all for men's work and being like work on themselves. And I just, the 3 of us after a year, Pete, my business partner, was in a full-time architectural practice. And he said, you know what, I want to be in full-time. I love this. I love what we're doing here. I love the impact we're having, because it is impactful. It's incredible, because like these guys are fathers, they're partners, and it's the work that we wanted to do as well. So yeah, it's just really grown quite organically and with a lot of effort. It's like, but it was just really powerful work. And we do the deep work where we do like, therapeutic work with a therapist on a retreat every year.
Yeah.
But equally, we just hold each other to a higher standard, challenge each other. And yeah, that's essentially what we created, just an arena for guys to sharpen up every day. And
brilliant.
And that's it really. Yeah.
Is that so geographically, people all around the world? Are they in certain areas? How does the group sort of, what does a group look like, or how many people would be in a group together, and how do they interact?
Yeah, good question. Originally I thought it would just be in the UK, because I was in the UK.
Right.
And it's online. It's fully online. It's all through Zoom. Really easy to access. We started off with people mainly in the UK and a bit Europe, but Canada. We even got New Zealand. Like, we had a daily call at 12 noon UK. It kind of catered for both sides of the pond, America and some Canada, and equally to Dubai. But yeah, we've had guys from all over the world. Brilliant. And I think the only thing I could think would be similar would be like AA.
Okay.
But people come together in AA over alcohol, whereas people come to Awaken Man over just being a better man. Right. It's like, I don't need to get over alcohol or drugs, and I'm just like, I just want to be the best it can be. Right. And yeah, and so what we did is we started off kind of like the Tesla model. We started off with a premium product, like a really we got coaching from me and a group of guys.
Yeah.
And then when we had about 15, 20 guys, we started a community, which is like a lower tier level. So kind of, we started at the top and moved down a bit like Tesla.
Yeah.
And that was what we've created. Like, now we got 2 products, and whether you're a guy looking to get, high level support, or you guy just looking to be part of a community of men,
right,
we've now got men just coming and doing the work with us. And yeah, it's amazing, because guys are looking for this, but they don't know that they're looking for it. This is something, it's what we're finding, like guys saying like, yeah, this is exactly what I needed, but I didn't know this was it. Because that as I said before, guys don't really know what self-development is. Some read a book and do some stuff on it, whereas actually there's a lot of healthy challenge in our communities, where guys are pushing each other like, come on, you can do this, and asking each other to step up in every way. And as I've kind of matured in the business, I've just realized the impact that it has on a massive level. I'm like, so yeah, it's been, I was quite evangelic about it, as you can tell.
Oh, it's great, and I think you should be, and you have to be from when this is a business yourself, but also when you see the value. And it's, as you say, there's business results coming through, but I'm sure there's equal, if not greater, results just in general life coming through for
Yeah,
people in terms of
yeah,
their relationships and their health and their well-being.
yeah. Well, even when I started it, so total honesty, I remember saying to Yassine, I was like, oh, I want to do this. And he's like, okay, we'll call it the Awakened Man Project. And I was like, hang on a second. I absolutely cannot lead this. I'm not awakened. I
Right.
am so unawakened. And I at the time I had like a bit of, I was probably drinking more frequently than I wanted to, not like excessively. I had a couple of beers on the weekend, and I probably had a borderline porn addiction. I wasn't a man of my word. There was some integrity gaps.
Right.
And I just felt like, who am I to lead? And I actually said to this, who am I
Mm.
to lead this? And he said, this is exactly why you've got to do this.
Right.
And over the last 2 years of leading the guys, I've closed all those gaps.
Right.
I've got rid of all my vices. I'm not like a monk on a hillside now. But I am free from alcohol,
Mm.
porn, and I don't take drugs.
Mm.
I've worked heavily on my relationship, and it's helped me become the man that I want to be and want to be in the world. And that was a big thing. And me doing that has been instrumental for the other guys as well. I do my work with my clients.
Right.
It's not like a hierarchy where better than thou, holier
Yeah.
than thou. It's more like we're all in this together. And I think we've cultivated that kind of community.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of guys resonate with.
Mm.
We're not this kind of, perfected, polished. It's like, no, I'm imperfect too. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth mentioning that as well.
Yeah, no, and there's my next question is always around how do you help yourself perform, and it sounds as if one of the main channels is just being involved in with those teams as well. But what are the sort of things that you do to help you be at your best?
Oh yeah. I wake up at 4:30, 4:40 every morning. I always have been an early riser.
Mm.
I work on myself before the kids get up. I got two young daughters,
Right.
one of which now decides to get up at 4:45 now, because you can hear my coffee machine going off probably. Um, I I train every day. So
Mm.
if it's got the word day in the week, I'm out training.
Right.
Whether that's a walk, whether it's a run, whether it's a gym, I'm just always doing something.
Yeah.
I'm very, very conscious of my integrity gaps, like where I say to someone to do something, I'm not doing it myself.
Right.
And sometimes I'll say something to a client, I'll be like, okay, what about doing this? And I'll just say, actually, I'm out of integrity here, I'm going to go and do that as well.
Mm.
So kind of and then the other thing is have support networks.
Mm.
This, BS narrative that men develop is that if it is to be, it's up to me on my own.
Right.
I'm a man, like I'm a lone wolf. And guys coming into our universe, they notice that, like, oh, I feel I'm just got so much more. They see what's possible.
Right.
So a lot of my clients are wealthier than me. Some
Mm.
of them have got better relationships than me. They're just like, they've worked on their relationships. And I glean so much from there,
Mm.
because they get to talk about them openly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to go and do that. So I think men learning from men
Mm.
is something that, if you follow back a little bit of history, is that men used to be around men.
Mm.
And men have been segregated from men. Like a lot of us work online, a lot of us have been, we've been isolated.
Mm.
So to work on myself, I'm in amongst my clients every single day.
Right.
And yeah, that's a big one for me. And the final thing is having the right support in my life. I've got a guide. My business partner, you've seen, he's my guide, my trusted guide. I trust him with anything. I'll tell him anything, really.
Right.
I've got a therapist, which I work with when I need to.
Yep.
Which changed my life. I'm a really big advocate for therapy, and I've got a group, and I've got a group where I don't go and bitch off about the weather or moan about my partner. It's a group of men who will say, "No, Ben, step it up now. Come on."
Yeah.
And I think that is what, if you even look at elite sports people, they've got other people in their team, in their group, and if you look at elite business people, they all have coaches and mentors.
Yeah.
to think that you can do this on your own is naive.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it is naive because no man is an island, you know.
Yeah.
And it's the same for women as well. But women, I find, are much much better at seeking support than men. Not saying every man and not saying every woman, but at the same time, you know, I work with a lot of women as well, and they're very good at opening up, whereas guys can be a bit more stoic. So yeah, that's how I perform. And just doing all the things that need to be done, you know, really just, I've got a protocol every day. I follow it. I eat exceptionally well. And I've got rid of my vices, which was the final part, like getting rid of alcohol, like don't take drugs. It just means I get a lot of my energy from experiences. Like I go running in the morning with my best buddy.
Yeah.
We do stuff with the kids. It means that, like you said before, I don't have the high highs or the low lows. I'm just steadily feeling great. So yeah.
Oh, that's some great lessons to be learned in that in its own right. So, and so let's ask a slightly different question. If you've got this skill set and you've got this approach where you could help anyone out there in terms of, you said you work with men and women, and you work with all sorts of people, who would you want that to be? If you could work with any one individual or maybe a team of people, maybe even an organization, if you had that sort of ideal client, who would you want that to be and why?
I love working with leaders.
Right.
I love working with especially men and women who have got a big force for growth. They know that they want to do something like really, really powerful with their life.
Yeah.
But there's these seemingly tiny things that seem to get in the way. That's what I do my best work. Is I'm almost like a surgeon, getting to know what those things are. You know, I talk a lot about self-sabotage, and there's a famous, I think it's like Newton's third law, if you wish. Every force has an equal and opposing force. So if you're a business leader, a high-performing man or woman, you've got a big force for growth. There's a big external force that you have to change the world. And equally, there's an internal force acting against you, which is your self-saboteur. You know, this kind of, and the way this kind of manifests in everyday life is that you're about to write a really important piece of work, and you get the biggest wave of procrastinative thoughts. I'll go and make a cup of tea. I'll do the hoovering. I'll go and text someone. I'll go and scroll. I'll do the seemingly dumb stuff that are getting in the way of important work. And actually, that's where a lot of work for a lot of high-performing people exists. It's like overcoming these really, really small resistances that show up in their life. And yeah, I just love removing the brakes. And that's what happens when you get someone who's already performing well. I like working with people that are already performing well and want to perform better.
Yeah. And
you just see magic happen. These people are massive forces for growth. So yeah, they're my ideal people.
Oh, wonderful. And let's switch that on its head a little bit then. If you could sit down and have a chat, you know, maybe have a meal, sit down, have that ability to learn from anyone, and any individual that's out there, and you say, right, if I could just sit down and learn from them, I believe that would really have a positive impact on my own performance.
Yeah, I've actually had the luxury of doing it with a lot of the people I you know, really, if I find a mentor, I go and do what I can to go and sit with them.
Right.
There's a guy called Phil Stutz. I mentioned him earlier on, and if you go on Netflix and you want to watch a really good documentary about psychotherapy, modern psychotherapy, a guy called Phil Stutz, so the documentary called Stutz, and he was the psychotherapist for the likes of Jay-Z, Jeff Bezos, Will Smith. All these different people have worked with him. Jonah Hill, Joaquin Phoenix.
Right.
And he's just got this incredible way of looking at the world, you know, really just like, wow. And he says such insightful things that are just very contrary to what you would believe.
Right.
And since I followed Phil's work with Barry as co-author, I've just, my life's improved enormously. Yeah. So they wrote the book called The Tools.
Right.
And these are little like 5 to 10 second visualizations you can use in the moment. as you're struggling with the things that you struggle with in life, be it your vices, arguments, hard conversations, courage, standing on a stage, all the things high performers have to do. So I learned those tools and I teach them to my clients, and I use them myself. And so I'll just try to give you a walkthrough of one. Just like
yeah, please do.
Yeah. So this is one you can do, especially if you live in the UK. You can't do it in Dubai because the water's not cold enough. So every single morning, I'd have a shower. This is when I was in the UK. I'd have a shower, and it would be run it like normal shower, 3-5 minutes, however long it. At the end of the shower, you turn it as cold as it'll go.
Yeah.
And then you just see the cold water as the thing that you're avoiding that day. You see it as pain.
Right.
And then you just you step into the cold shower and you say, I love pain. Pain sets me free. And you just stand there for 20 seconds, let it wash over your head, the pain of that thing. And then you turn around, obviously being careful not to fall over, and then step out of the shower and you're like, bring it on. And you walk into the day and you go and take on your challenges. And it's just that the kind of like somatic reminder of, the pain, moving towards your pain sets you free. And I tell you what, if you've had a cold shower, it's never as bad as that, right?
No.
and obviously that's just one of the ways, the permutations of some of the tools, that they're actually, none of them you need a shower, you do them in your mind.
Right.
But we just have clients doing things like that. And then all of a sudden they start to walk towards their pains, and then their life changes. So yeah, like that came from Phil's work, and very profound, very logical. And there's a bit of I think he treads the line between woo woo and science and real decent psychology really, really well. So yeah.
Oh, well, we'll make sure we put a link to that video and the book and things in the show notes so people can check it out for themselves. So, and speaking of links, where can people find out more? Where do people go to connect with you, to connect with the Awakened Man project?
Yeah, so on most platforms at Coach Benjamin Owen on Instagram. I've been growing my Instagram following for the last couple of months. I'm really working on that, sharing my message on there. I'm in the infant stage of that. But we've also got the Awakened Man podcast. And that's where it's just me and Pete, and we share about our lives and the work that we're doing. So we get very open and honest. We talk about everything. We're kind of like what you see is what you get. You're really open. We don't hold anything back.
Yeah.
And we've talked about our experience of growing a 7-figure business together, and it's been powerful. And doing that, and it's been a real hero's journey in itself. It's been a real experience. And yes, the Awakened Man podcast is our free gift to the world. There's so much stuff in there, from how to navigate hard conversations in your relationships, how to navigate divorce, how to make offers and improve your business, everything that we both wanted when we were doing what we've been doing. So it's been great.
Brilliant stuff. And I'll make sure we've got links to all of that so people can check it out for themselves and reach out. And I say this in virtually every episode, and is that, I encourage my listeners just to reach out, check out these things, reach out to the individuals who are guesting on this show, because that's part of the reason you come on here, is to get people to connect and see what their stories are and how you can support them going on. So, Ben, absolutely love this conversation today. You're doing some amazing work, and I'm going to be going and checking out some of that material myself for a bit of integrity on my own part. So, thanks so much for being on the show and for sharing your story today, Ben.
Thank you so much, Paul. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Speak soon. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, then please give the podcast a rate, review, and share. I'm Paul Teasdale, and from sausage making to banking, oil and gas to Formula One, I help people perform. If you'd like to find out more and have a conversation, contact me via helpingpeopleperform.com.